All right, today we're going to talk about the next giant leap for AI assistants. This is the tech that's turning our simple chatbots into actual, problem solvers. Let's dive right in.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been talking to an AI chatbot and gotten an answer that just feels, well, confidently wrong? We call this hallucinating. And believe me, it is a huge problem in the AI world. And the stakes, they are incredibly high. Just how high are we talking? Well, this number, that's how much Google's stock value dropped after its Bard AI gave just one incorrect answer during a public demo. One mistake, $100 billion. That right there shows you why getting AI to be accurate isn't just a nice to have, it's literally everything.
So what's going on here? Why does this even happen? Well, it all comes down to a really basic limitation in how these large language models, or LLMs, work. It's a fundamental knowledge problem.
Think of it this way. An LLM is trained on this massive but totally frozen snapshot of the internet. Its knowledge is basically sealed in a time capsule the moment its training stops. So if your model was trained last year, it has no clue who won last night's game. It doesn't know what's in the news this morning. Its world is permanently stuck in the past.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This quote just nails the solution. Obviously, ChatGPT doesn't know anything about your house. Of course it doesn't. But what if you gave it the blueprint first? If you gave it that external information, suddenly it could answer your question perfectly. And that simple idea? Well, that's the key to everything.
And this brings us to our first huge breakthrough. It's a technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. It's just a brilliant, elegant fix for that knowledge problem we were just talking about.
So what is RAG? To put it simply, it gives the LLM a chance to look up fresh, external information before it tries to answer you. It's like, instead of forcing the AI to take a closed book test with only its old, frozen knowledge, RAG turns it into an open book test, where the book could be your company's private documents or even a live news feed.
And the process is wonderfully straightforward. First, you ask a question, and the system retrieves relevant bits of info from whatever knowledge base it's connected to. Second, it augments your original question by basically stuffing that new info right into the prompt. And finally, it generates an answer based on this new, super informed prompt. Simple, right? But so powerful.
But, and you know there was a but coming, right? As amazing as RAG is, it is not the end of the story. Standard basic RAG has this hidden flaw, a kind of ceiling on its intelligence that really holds it back.
Here's the most important part. That three-step process is totally rigid. It's a one-way street. It takes your query, does one search, and gives one answer. It follows instructions perfectly, but it doesn't reason about them. It doesn't plan. It doesn't adapt. It just doesn't think.
And this slide just makes the difference crystal clear. A human researcher doesn't just do one search and call it a day. No way. They think about your question, they rephrase it, they search a bunch of places, and they find new keywords in those sources, and then they search again. Standard RAG is a simple instruction follower. A human is a dynamic problem solver.
So how do we close that gap? How do we make our AI think more like that human researcher? Well, this brings us to the next evolution, making RAG agentic. We give it the ability to think and act for itself by introducing an AI agent.
An AI agent isn't just another program. Think of it more like an autonomous worker. It can make its own decisions, it can create a whole plan of action, and it can use different tools like a web search or a database query all on its own to get a job done.
So, Agentic RAG doesn't just bolt an agent on the side. No, it embeds these agents right into the retrieval process. This completely transforms that rigid one-way pipeline into a dynamic, intelligent loop where the agent is actually in charge.
And this gives the system what you could honestly call superpowers. It can create a plan to tackle a really complex question. It can use multiple tools, like searching the web and a private database. And it can reflect on what it finds to decide its next move. This is multi-step reasoning in action, and it's a total game changer.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty cool in theory, right? But let's walk through a real-world example to see just how different this really is.
So imagine a user asks a super broad, kind of vague question like this. A standard RAG system would just search for those exact words. How do I do well in Module 1? And honestly, it would probably get back pretty bad results. But an agent thinks differently. It actually reflects on the query and realizes it's ambiguous. You can almost hear its internal monologue, right? This is a bad question for a search engine. I've got to reformulate it. And so, what does it do? It takes action. On its own, it generates multiple, much better search queries that are way more likely to give it some useful information. It's already thinking like that human researcher we talked about.
But here's the magic. It doesn't stop there. After that first round of searches, it looks at the results and notices new, important keywords it didn't have before, like Docker and Terraform. So it decides to go again, performing another round of searches to dive deeper into those specific topics. This is an iterative, multi-step research loop. And the result of all this extra thought and work? Well, it's a night and day difference. Where standard RAG would have given you a really basic, superficial answer, Agentic RAG synthesizes information from all its different steps and sources to give you a deep, comprehensive, and genuinely useful response.
So what this all boils down to is a massive paradigm shift. We are moving away from building simple answer engines, and we are starting to build autonomous problem solvers. We're moving from AI that just answers basic questions to AI that can actually tackle complex problems for us.
And this really brings us to one final massive question. We are right on the edge of having AI that doesn't just fetch information, but actively works on our behalf. So when your assistant can genuinely think for itself, what complex tasks, what ambitious goals are you going to give it? The possibilities are just starting to open up.